You know that feeling? You're driving, maybe you don't really have a destination, but there's this intense urge to just keep going,
Hmm.
to see what's over the next hill. Or like it's 2 a.m., you started by looking up a recipe, and somehow 3 hours later, you're deep into the history of salt mining.
The rabbit hole effect. It's a very specific, and I would say a very relatable state of mind. You could call it the cosmic impulse of the quest.
Exactly, the quest. It's that drive that pushes explorers, and in nature, it pushes a deer to find the next patch of grass.
Yeah,
And today, that's what we're doing a deep dive on.
we are.
We're unpacking the fifth nakshatra, Mrigashirsha.
Mrigashirs,
Yeah.
yes. A fascinating and kind of complex area of the sky.
Okay, let's start right there with the name because I want to make sure I'm saying it right. Is it Mrigashirsha?
You've got it. The stress is on that middle shir sound and then a long sha at the end, migashir.
Mrigashir. Okay.
And the translation is pretty straightforward. It just means deer's head or face of the deer.
Face of the deer, which is our first major clue. But before we get into the animal stuff, I want to set the scene. Last time we were in Rohini, which was all, stability, earth, very grounded.
Very grounded. Rohini was the heart of Taurus fixed, stable Earth. But with Mrigashirsha, we're seeing this massive shift in energy.
How so?
We're moving from that fixed stability into a really restless, searching quality. We're moving into the air element.
So we're kind of crossing a bridge.
Literally and figuratively, yes.
Mm-hmm.
This nakshatra actually spans 2 zodiac signs. It starts in Taurus, so it still has that earthy footing, but then it extends into the first part of Gemini.
Ah, so it's walking the line between earth and air.
Exactly, which is a recipe for a very interesting and you could say slightly conflicted personality.
Right. So our mission today is to figure out why this is called the searching star. And honestly, the part that really confused me is how a shy little deer connects to the planet Mars. That seems like a total mismatch.
It's a huge paradox, but to get it, we have to look up first. You can actually spot this one in the night sky pretty easily.
Right. This is the head of Orion, correct?
Specifically, the stars Lambda and Phi Orionis. The ancient seers looked at those stars and saw the shape of a deer's head.
And the symbol isn't just a deer standing still, is it? The sources were very specific. It's a deer sniffing the ground.
And that one detail changes everything. It's not passive, it's active. Muga in Sanskrit means a forest animal, a deer, because it's always roaming, it's searching.
So psychologically, this is about being a tracker.
Precisely. You're not just wandering aimlessly, you're following a scent, you're looking for nourishment. But there's a nervous energy to it.
How do you mean?
Well, a deer is gentle and timid, but it's never really still. It's always alert, checking the wind. That creates a restless quality in this nakshatra.
I think we all know people like that. They can't just sit still. They're always looking something up, planning the next thing. Their mind is already sniffing out what's next.
That mental sniffing is the core of the archetype, and that brings us to your confusion about the planet.
Oh, yes. The ruler is Mars, Mangala, the red planet, that god of war, ruling the tender deer star. I mean, the sources call it Meridu, or soft. So why is the planet of aggression in charge here? It makes no sense.
This is one of those great aha moments in Vedic astrology. Think about the act of searching. If you're a gentle deer dreaming of sweet grass, but you have no drive, no fire, what happens?
You starve, I guess. You just stay put and hope for the best.
Exactly. Mars isn't just about war. Mars is the impulse planet. It gives you the fire, the energy to initiate the search.
Okay.
The sources use a great analogy. Think of a car. The car itself is just matter, right? Can't move on its own.
Right.
Mars is the internal combustion engine.
Oh, that makes so much sense. The engine is the fire.
It transforms desire into action. Without Mars, the deer just dreams. With Mars, the deer becomes an explorer. It's a high-octane engine in a very tender vehicle.
That explains the exhaustion I feel just reading about it. But what are they driving toward? What's the object of the search? It can't just be grass.
Well, on one level, yes, food. But on a cosmic level, the deity of this nakshatra gives us the real answer. The deity is Soma.
Soma, the moon god.
The moon god, yes, but in the Vedic sense, Soma is so much more than that. Soma is the nectar of immortality, the Amrita. It's divine essence, bliss, ecstasy. It's the sap of life.
So we're not just looking for a sandwich here. We are searching for bliss.
The ultimate experience, the elixir of life. The deer, which is the soul, is driven by Mars, which is action, to find Soma, which is delight.
That reframes the restlessness in a much more positive light. It's a spiritual hunger.
It is, But there's a catch. The Vedic texts say the Soma plant had to be pressed to release its nectar.
Pressed, like juicing an orange.
Sort of. It's a metaphor for discipline, for focus. To get the nectar out of life, you have to press your experiences to extract the meaning. If you just run from one thing to the next, you're just grazing.
You're not getting the Soma, you're just skimming the surface. Doom scrolling, fast fashion. You get the movement, but not the nourishment.
Exactly. And that danger of just chasing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
That brings us to the mythology, which gets pretty dramatic.
Yeah, I read this part. It's a bit intense. It's about Brahma, the creator.
It is. But these myths are maps of our psychology. The story goes that Brahma became obsessed with his daughter, Rohini, the doe. He chased her through the sky, taking the form of a deer himself.
So this is the quest gone totally wrong.
Totally. It became a violation of cosmic law. It wasn't a search for truth. It was a search for possession. So Shiva, in his fierce form as Rudra, saw this and fired an arrow.
And that arrow is the next Nakshatra, Rudra.
Yes. The arrow cut off the deer's head, and that severed head became the constellation Mrigashirsha.
Wow, so the deer's head is literally a warning sign in the sky.
It's a warning that the search can become a dangerous obsession if you violate natural order. If you chase what isn't yours, you lose your head. Literally and metaphorically.
But it's not all doom and gloom, right? There's a link to Parvati, too, which feels much more redemptive.
A very beautiful one. While Soma is the main deity, some sources strongly link Parvati to this star because she undertook this huge search, a great penance, to win Shiva.
So that's the other side of the coin. Brahma's obsessive chase versus Parvati's devoted search.
The difference between obsession and devotion. And interestingly, sources say they were married under this star.
But that's a good sign.
Well, sort of. One source mentioned that because their marriage had so many upheavals, the star isn't always recommended for weddings. It implies you have to go on a journey before you find peace.
That fits the Restless theme perfectly. Okay, so this star bridges Taurus and Gemini. Does that create a kind of split personality?
It creates a duality for sure. You get two different flavors of the search.
Let's break that down. What about the first half in Taurus?
Right. Taurus is ruled by Venus, so the search here is Venusian. It's for material security, comfort, beauty, sensual pleasure.
That's where the artistic stuff comes in, like singing and music.
Yes, you're tracking beauty, sniffing out aesthetic pleasure.
But then you cross into the Gemini side.
And the energy shifts. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, so the search moves from the senses to the intellect. Now you're hunting for information, for knowledge, for debate.
The sources called this side more fickle.
Or whimsical. Think of a deer hopping from one idea to the next. It's like having 20 browser tabs open.
That's definitely the Mercury influence. Yeah. But across both sides, there's this underlying trait the texts mention. Suspicion. Why are they so suspicious?
Go back to the deer in the forest. It has those large, doe-like eyes, which is a physical trait often linked to this star, by the way.
Right. Brooke Shields was the example.
Exactly, that innocent, fawn-like look. But in the wild, those eyes are constantly scanning for danger. Being alert keeps you alive.
If a deer isn't suspicious, it's dinner.
Right. So in a positive sense, this is about great research skills. You sniff out the truth. But in relationships, it can manifest as marital suspicion. You're constantly tracking your partner, reading into everything.
Which connects to that story from the Ramayana, the magical deer.
This is so crucial for the shadow side. The demon Maricha disguises himself as a beautiful golden deer to distract Sita and Rama.
And Sita sees it and just has to have it.
She becomes obsessed. She sends Rama to chase this fantasy, and that separation leads directly to her being abducted.
So the lesson is, don't chase the shiny thing.
Beware of the golden deer. Mrigashirsha can govern illusion, chasing mirages that lead you away from your real path.
I saw female serpent listed as a symbol too. That seems so different from a deer.
It is. The serpent indicates a very sensual nature. The texts say they can be experts in lovemaking, but they're also part bohemian.
Part bohemian. I love that. It sounds very free-spirited.
It means they need freedom. You can't fence in a deer, and you can't stifle a Mrigashirsha person. If they feel trapped, they will jump the fence.
So with all this searching, restlessness, and suspicion, what's the superpower? What is the Shakti here?
The Shakti is Pratana Shakti, the power to give fulfillment or to make things delightful.
That's a lovely contrast to all the restlessness. How does that work?
The imagery used is extension above and weaving below.
Weaving?
Yes. Think of all your experiences, all your searches as a pile of threads. It's a mess. The higher energy here is about weaving those threads into a beautiful garment. It's about making life attractive.
So it's about integrating everything you find.
It's about finding the soma, the joy in the everyday. The ultimate goal of all this restlessness is actually joy. The searching ends when the heart opens.
When you can stop sniffing the ground for a second and actually taste the nectar you've found.
Exactly. And you see this range in the famous examples. You have Brooke Shields for beauty, but then you have Dr. B.V. Raman, the famous astrologer.
A giant in the field.
He represents the research, the tireless tracking of truth through ancient texts. He sniffed out the scattered knowledge and wove it together for the modern world. That's the Shakti in action.
It really does show the range. And what about the remedy? For someone who feels this restless energy, what's the best way to handle it?
The best remedy is nature. Wandering in forests or gardening.
Puts the deer in its natural habitat.
It does. The air energy needs to be earthed. Gardening connects you to the soil, the Taurus side, but keeps you active, the Mars side. It satisfies the urge to search in a calming way.
It lets that internal combustion engine idle nicely instead of redlining.
Exactly.
So, sum it all up, Mrigashirsha is the initiator of Martian energy, but it's wrapped in the gentleness of a deer.
It's the soft search for the hard truth. The drive to find the nectar of life.
And the real lesson is about the direction of that search.
Yes. It's the transition from the external search, roaming the forest, chasing illusions, to the internal search, finding the soma within yourself.
You remind me of that last point from the notes about the Orion Nebula.
Right. The Orion Nebula is a stellar nursery where stars are born, and it sits right there in the sky behind the deer's head.
So if the deer is always sniffing the ground looking down,
Is it missing the stars being born right above its head?
that is the question. Are you chasing a mirage, or are you weaving a life of genuine fulfillment?
The search is inevitable. You can't stop the deer from moving, but you can choose to look up.
Keep searching, but remember to look up. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Until next time.